Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling. We have two-time NCAA wrestling champion from Penn State, three-time All-American, 2003 world silver medalist, and so many World Cup gold medals. I don't even know where to start. It's Kerry McCoy. How are you, Kerry?
I'm doing well, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
One thing I promise you that I will not do with this interview is I will not bring up that you played the cello in any way. I think we've had numerous interviews, and I've always brought it up, and other people do. I will not bring it up this.
Don't bring it up. Don't even mention the word cello. It's something that I never talk about. I never get it attached to it. So it's don't even worry about it.
I won't. But I'm interested in your Penn State years in particular because starting in '93, that was your freshman season. That was the first time that Penn State entered into the Big Ten. Do you remember that, what it was like transitioning into the Big Ten and the wave you guys made that first season?
It was really interesting because, when I was recruited, they weren't in the Big Ten. And I can't remember if they knew they were going to the Big Ten. I think probably, but it wasn't really one of those things that I remember being a factor in the recruiting process. So, it was just Penn State wrestling and commitment to world and Olympic success, and obviously a great academic institution. So getting in there that first year, and which was what was unique, I think I look back at, is the first season. So 92, 93 was my freshman year. So in 92, I don't think the football team was in the Big Ten in 92. I think they started competing in 93. So 92, they were still independent. And, so it was the university, the athletic department was in the Big Ten, but football wasn't there yet. So it was kind of a double exposure. So first year on the team, we were in the Big Ten, we were competing in the Big Ten. And then that fall of 93, they had the inaugural Big Ten game against Minnesota. And that was a huge game. And I remember they gave tickets and commemorative medals and things like that. So it was an interesting transition that we were in the conference, and then then the football came afterwards. But yeah, it was a pretty cool time to be in there, and not knowing what it was like before personally, but knowing the history they had in the EWL and the EIWA, it was pretty cool to be in the Big Ten.
And Iowa threw everything but the kitchen sink. It went in that Big Ten in '93. That was a tight team race. Did you guys feel like it was in your grasp that year?
Yeah, 93. And again, I'm a freshman, so I really don't know a whole lot about the what the expectations are and the levels of competition. I was just out there, trying to figure out on the fly, and I was fortunate to have some great people around me. But, when you got to see, and I think at that year, Iowa was on a big streak, 19, 20, 21. I mean, just a ridiculous number of Big Ten titles. And we tied them in the duel, and, they got upset by Nebraska at the national duels, and we beat Nebraska. So we were the national dual meet champions. And, we thought we had a good shot at making a run. And we got to the Big Tens, and we were right there. We had a bunch of our guys do really well. We had a bunch of guys in the finals, and it was pretty close. I think we lost by 3.5 points, something like that, in the Big Tens. And, we had maybe 6 head-to-head matchups in the finals. So, we win one of those, any of the ones that we lost, if we win that, that makes a difference for us for a team title. And, I know I was pretty upset because I made the semifinals and then I ended up losing 3 straight. So, if I would have won another match, if I would have, placed a little bit higher, that could have contributed to it. And then we had a couple other guys that, were capable of performing higher and maybe didn't, and some people that outperformed. So it was a great experience that first tournament, but we thought we were in a position to stop Iowa's streak, and, we didn't. And it went on for a few more years. So
that freshman season, you were a 190-pounder. Did you see yourself as a 90-pounder coming in for the entirety of your career?
Yeah, I think so. So actually, my senior year in high school, I wrestled 177 in New York. And so I think it was recruited as a 177 that could potentially grow into a 190-pounder. And then I cut a decent amount of weight my senior year in high school. So freshman year, it was a little bit of a challenge to get my weight under control and manage it. But I got down, and, when I came back between the summer of my freshman and sophomore years, I had made the commitment that I was going to, manage my weight better, and, had the plan of being at 190 for this following year. And there were a lot of guys that beat me my freshman year that still had eligibility, and I was looking forward to a chance to get a rematch with a lot of those guys. So kind of had that mentality to kind of give everything I could to go back and flip some of those results. But I think things worked out and circumstances played in that ended up, allowing me to move up to heavyweight. And then at that point, it was, don't look back from there.
What was it about Penn State at that time? Because Penn State has taken a lot of different forms over the years, but Penn State was always a power program. Did you feel like you came in there thinking you were going to win titles as an individual and as a team?
Yeah, I mean, and I was kind of late to the game when it comes to wrestling. I didn't start wrestling until I was in 7th grade, and I didn't really know about the national powers in wrestling. So as it unfolded throughout the years in the recruiting process, I got to know a few more programs, and Penn State had always been successful. But it was, really what it came down to me was the commitment to the international wrestling. My junior, senior year in high school, and that range is when I made the commitment that, hey, I wanted to make a world Olympic teams, and Penn State had the highest commitment of the schools I was looking at. I felt like they had the highest commitment to international wrestling. So that was really the big thing, and the atmosphere there, family atmosphere. I remember going on my recruiting visit, and we didn't do anything, spectacular. It wasn't a big show. I was actually there on a Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and it was just like we were there. We're just hanging out, and it just felt like what I talk about during that process was when I went on other places, I felt like I was being recruited. It was part of the process, which is great. But when I was at Penn State on my visit, I felt like I was a part of something. I was part of the family. I was part of the team. So it wasn't, they didn't have to put on a big show or try to convince. They were just like, hey, this is what we are. If you want to be a part of it, come aboard. So I think that was really the big thing, that the commitment to the international success and the family atmosphere, that I felt like everybody was there to be as close as they can, and in the meantime, win and be successful in all areas.
You only lost one match over the course of your last 3 seasons in the heavyweight class. What's the art to being a good heavyweight?
Well, I would say the number one thing is to not subscribe to what people would say traditional heavyweight roles. You don't just hang out in a 1-1 match and try to win it with one takedown. Really push the pace and control ties and be technically sound. So for me, being a small heavyweight, my foundation was I wanted to be technically sound. I wanted to be, really good at my technique, and I wanted to be in really good shape. So, I knew I could wrestle hard for 7 minutes or however long it lasted. And I felt like the percentage of offense, if I attacked, I had a high percentage of scoring. If you attacked me, I had a high percentage of defending, getting off the bottom, staying on top. So just being really solid technically and staying in good shape. So I think that for me was a formula. But, every year, no matter where you go, you hear people making, offhanded remarks about heavyweight wrestlers, and I always take offense to it. So, don't subscribe to the typical, what people think heavyweights are. Go out there and be different. Go out there and score a lot of points. Be exciting and make things happen. I think that really made a difference for me.
You were extremely successful against really big heavyweights. How do you go in there and game plan that so that when you got a guy that looks physically superior to you, that you're able to really have your way a lot of times?
Yeah. So, and I'm a big quote guy, from when we talked about, but one quote that Bruce Baumgartner had given me and told me, well, I was like, it's you move strength and you tie speed. And I remember that sticking with me. It's like, so when you wrestle those big, strong guys, you don't stand there and go toe to toe with them and try to muscle. I mean, I doubt that I was as strong as most of my competition, so just try to move them and try to get them tired and wear them out. And then, kind of pick your places. You don't go to a place where you don't want to be. That's a quote that I got from Lee Kemp. Just if you don't want to be somewhere, don't go there. So, trying not to get stuck underneath those big guys, try not to let them use their advantage, which is strength and power and size. So being mobile, being agile, and just, I felt like if I could move around and wear guys out, get them a little bit tired, then that would give me a chance. And, if it was a close match in the first or second period, usually I had a pretty good amount of gas in the third period to try to open up a little bit more. But just staying active and really focus on moving and not letting those guys stay where they were strong and where they might have had an advantage.
How much did you gain from taking that redshirt year in 1996?
It's a kind of unique situation because at that point I had I'd won a national championship. I was an All-American the year before. I was having success on an international level. So that year of just focusing completely on freestyle for the majority of the year. And one of the biggest things that I got out of that experience was being able to train with some of the best guys in the world on a regular basis. Throughout my college career, I'd kind of have here or there, go to training camps, or I'd have somebody come in or go somewhere and train. And that really made a big difference for me, making my progress through college. But that year in 96, when I was out in Arizona training with Sunkist, and I was at the Olympic Training Center, and I'd go up and train with Bruce, and I'd go with West Virginia, train with Dominic Black. And I was able to do these things for 2 weeks, 15, 20 days out of the month, instead of just kind of having 1 or 2 days. I think that was really the biggest experience that I had during those times, is being able to be, out there in Arizona. I mean, it was, and the story's pretty funny. I was Kevin Jackson, Kenny Monday, Mike Van Arsdale, Melvin Douglas, Mark Kerr, Mark Coleman. Those are guys that are out there training. And, I would go out there, and 20-year-old kid going out there, and I would just get smashed. But it was like being around those guys, seeing how those guys live, seeing how those guys train, and being able to learn from them was a huge boost for me. So really just the opportunity to train with elite level guys really took me to another level. And, I had the success in college, so it wasn't like one of those things where that year made me, capable to win a national championship in college because I already won, but it really put me in a position where I could start understanding what it took to be elite. And, I came back and won my senior year, and then made a couple of world teams, and, made the Olympic team. So I think that experience was really important, just being around elite level people at a high level for extended amount of time in that 96 year.
You were really close there in 96. You were on the cusp. You took Kurt Angle to, I think, a 0-0 match at that U.S. Open finals, and
Yep.
you were really close. But that was at 220. The weight classes changed. I think it went from 10 weight classes to 8 in 97. I think it dropped to maybe 213, somewhere in there. Did you ever think about dropping down?
I did. Initially, because wrestling 220, my senior year, I was about 238, 240 in college. So 213 was definitely in striking distance. Had being wrestling heavyweight, but wrestling 220 those years, I was used to wrestling the smaller weight guys, and training with the 198 pounders, and then I was also training with the heavyweight. So I had really great crop of training partners. So really the biggest difference was in that time when I'd make a decision, I looked at my training partners. So if I'd gone down to the lighter weight class, I would look at the people that I'd trained with, and the options at heavyweight for training partners were a lot less than the options for the 96, 97 kilo guys. So the decision was, if I move up to heavyweight, I'm going to have a wider variety of skill level partners that were at the lighter weight classes, versus if I went down, I'd be competing against them. And then the heavier partners would be a little bit tough to get. So that was really the biggest focus on making that weight class change, was knowing that I'd have a wider variety of partners at the lower weights.
You stuck with it, man. Like you tried out for the 96 Olympics at 220, and then you made the 2000, 2004 Olympic team. When you go on a couple cycles, do you play it year by year? How do you manage that mentally? Because it's so demanding to train like that. How do you just stay all in that long?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, the goal was to make an Olympic team. And so from 92 was a little bit of a taste. I remember wrestling in the Northeast Regionals, which was a Olympic trials qualifier. And I got beat by some guy that was decent, but, he wasn't one of the top level guys. And I knew I wasn't at that level as a senior in high school, and continue to get better and improve and through college. And then, 94, 95, 96, I was making progress. 95, I was Bruce Baumgartner's training partner for the World Championships. And, so I got to experience training with him at that high level, got to, the World Championships in Atlanta. And then 96, I was his training partner. So during that process while I was in college and being exposed to some elite level training partners and elite level experiences, it just kind of continued to build. But it wasn't my time. I thought in 96, I thought I was ready. I felt like I was right there. Kurt was the defending world champ, and I went close matches. We wrestled in 95 at the World Team Trials, and I think he beat me 3-1, and it was a close match. And then, at the U.S. Open, it was a 0-0 referee decision, and, really close match. So I was right there. I felt like I was capable, and, but I was a young kid, and, it wasn't my time yet. So 96 was like, yes, I want to go. I'm trying. And, again, I took the year off of college wrestling for it. And then coming back from after 96 was like, okay, 96 was see what happens. I think I can do it, but, maybe it's not my time. But then I knew 2000 was my time. And the focus was get to 2000, take every year or every year was focused on getting to 2000. And 97, I wasn't there. 98, I made the team. 99, I got knocked off, and I came back and made the team in 2000. So just knowing that goal to make the Olympic team was something that kept me motivated. And I knew it was a 4-year commitment. So it wasn't even, every year was a step towards that goal in 2000. From 2000 to 2004 is a little bit different because in 2000, I thought I was going to be done. I had planned to be done. I was going to go and make a shot, and I felt like I was good enough to win the Olympics, and it didn't go out my way. So it was time to move on for other things. And the World Championships was awarded to New York in 2001, and had a lot of people that were like, hey, wrestling in the World Championship in your home state, home country, home state is pretty awesome. Not many people get that opportunity, and end up through some contemplation and conversations, end up making a commitment to compete in 2001. And we know what happened 9/11. Didn't get a chance to compete in New York in 9/11. Ended up going in Bulgaria 2 months later and placed there. So again, at that point, I thought I was done for sure. It's like, okay, I came back to wrestling in New York, didn't get to wrestle in New York, so it's just time for me to move on and do some other stuff. But I still kind of had a little bit of desire and fire, making that team and knowing that I was one of the best guys in the world and hadn't got to my goals yet. So, kind of hung around and wrestled in the World Cup and beat some guys that were world placers and world medalists at the World Cup. And, at that point, it was just like, hey, I'm this close. And regardless if I make the team in 2004, if I don't try, that'll be something that it'll be a lot harder to live with than just trying if I didn't make the team. So, I made that commitment in 2002 to keep going for the next, to the end of the cycle. And, we're fortunate that 2003, the World Championships came back to New York. So I did get to wrestle in my home state and, win a medal there, and then made the team in 2004. So for me, it was always committed to the long term for the first cycle. And the second one, it was year to year. But once I made the commitment, it was, that 2-year commitment from 2002 to 2004. And I knew in the games through the process, 2004, I was like, I know this is my last one. I felt like I could have gone through 2008, but it was time to move on. So, but yeah, it was a long-term commitment that kept me rolling.
On either side of you, you had Stephen Neal win the World Championships in 1999, and then you made everything all the way through 2004. And then Tolly Thompson, one of your competitors, gets a bronze medal in 2005 after you retire. Yeah. What's your emotion when you see your competitor succeed at a high level? Is there, I just would like to know kind of just in the moment what it feels like to do well.
Yeah, it was, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, when Steven won, I was pretty upset because, I felt like, hey, that was my title. Remember in 98, I felt like I was the best in the world and things didn't go my way. And then, he beat me and made the team and he won a title. And I was like, man, that could have maybe even felt like I should have been me. And I remember vividly, I was kind of, we're in Ankara, Turkey, and I was Dominic Black's training partner. And I remember talking with Kevin Jackson. He's like, hey man, this is USA, brother. We celebrate USA success. And I remember that. And I was like, it took a second from him. I was like, yeah, this is about the US. If I'm not going to be the guy, then whoever's going to be there, they're going to be ready. And it kind of took me back because in 95, when I lost to Kurt and he won a world title, I remember writing him a letter and saying, hey, if, I'm going to be there and I didn't make the team in 96. And I told him, I said, hey, if I'm not going to beat you, I'm going to help. If I can't beat you, I'm going to help you be the best you can be. So let me know anything you can do. And I remember that. And so it kind of brought me back in 99 when Steven, when he won, it was like, yeah, this is Team USA. I got to be happy for him, but know that next year I'm going to have to take this dude out to make the team. So, we had a pretty good relationship. We were rivals, we were competitors, but we had a good relationship. So I appreciate that. And the same thing with Tolly. Tolly and I had wrestled from high school, my freshman year in college all the way through 2004. So, I mean, that was a long time of matches and battles back and forth. And he was always there at training camp pushing me. Anytime I needed anything, when I was a top guy, he would be there to work out and push and just hang out and see each other in the cafeteria. And so it was just great because he was always there. And then in 2005, I didn't get a chance to go to the World Championship. I wasn't on the staff that year, but when he got that medal, I was really happy for him because he was he's one of those guys that made me better. Same thing with Steven. They made me better. They helped me, and we kind of pushed each other to be the best we can be. So, I was happy for them, but, more importantly, happy for USA to be able to, to have that level of success.
Stephen Neal gives you a lot of credit for scouting him and doing the necessary adjustments after '99. You beat him in the 2000 Olympic trials and the 2001 World Team Trials. What'd you do there to scout him out, and what'd you figure out about him that allowed you to beat him those next couple of years?
I mean, it was pretty simple. I mean, the biggest adjustment. So '98, I made the world team and finished fourth at the World Championship. '99, he beat me, and battle back and forth. But '99, I made the commitment to join the resident athlete program out in Colorado Springs, and Kevin Jackson was the national team coach, and Bruce Burnett was the national team coach. Kevin was the developmental coach, and they had a great squad out there. I think in the 2000 that national team, so there were 8 weight classes, three people in each weight class. So 24, I think we had 8 or 10 guys from that resident program that were on the national team or on the Olympic team. So that showed the commitment of level. So by moving out there and being committed and being immersed, I was 10 to 20 days a month out at the training center working with, the best guys in the world. Similar to what I said, that redshirt year for me when I was able to be around elite people, it was kind of a recap of that to be able to go back and be around those people. So that was the biggest thing. Focusing on being the best that I can be. And, Steven he was a monster, and it was like that double leg. It was, he hit on everybody, hit on me all the time. So it's like, okay, the focus is how can we stop the double? How can we stop the double? And then it became, well, you're not going to stop the double. So how can we minimize damage? And so it just, the game plan was find a way to, he's going to get to you. He's going to get to your legs. So, when he gets there, minimize damage, make sure you're not giving up 3-point double legs, feet to back. And, if he does get one, put in a situation where you can try and defend it. If he runs you out of bounds, you don't give up a score. So it was really focusing on beating that position. And then I was always pretty confident in my top parterre, being able to turn, being able to defend. So strategy on being able to work on techniques where I can turn and, got a couple ankle laces, a couple gut wrenches. My skills got up, and I just knew that if I got a chance to get on top, to make the most of it. So the U.S. Open, it was I think it was a 3-2 match, and I think I got a takedown. I may have got a takedown, counter shot, maybe got one offensive takedown, but got my scores there. And at the trials, got a 3-point move in the first match that held up, and then the second match, I got a couple ankle laces. So just really being prepared for not trying to avoid his strength, but try to minimize where he was good and focus on where I was good, and it worked out pretty well.
One of the things you said earlier, you said you wrote a letter to Kurt Angle, and I've heard that before with letter writing. This is before email, before text messages. It just seems so unbelievable to me that people would actually sit down, take the time to write a letter to Kurt Angle, like how you even knew what address to send it to or whatnot. Compartmentalize that. It's such a strange phenomenon even in today.
Yeah, I think, it was one of those things where I think I might have hand-delivered it to him too, which is kind of crazy. But I think I wrote it and I took it out to a training camp and gave it to him. But yeah, it was just one of those things. And, maybe it was just being naive, as a young kid, or maybe that was just a time of communication. But it was just one of those things. It was like, hey, I'm going to do the best that I can to help you now that, you beat me, but know that I'm going to be coming for you in the future. And, so it's kind of one of those things of, acknowledging what you had done, acknowledging where you have been, but also knowing that I'm not going to just sit back and take it and just accept it. So I think that was kind of the combination of it. So again, it may have been a little naive to think that was the right thing to do, but I had it, I had a training log back then. I remember having the picture. I had 2 pictures in 95, 96. I had the picture of him on the award stand, of 95, and then I had a picture of us wrestling right underneath it. And it was just one of those things that just, for me, was a sense that I knew that I could compete with him, and I could be right on that same level as him, and he was the best in the world. So it's like, if he's the best in the world and I know I can compete with him, every day when I looked at that, it would motivate me to keep going.
2002 NCAA Championships, you're an assistant coach at Lehigh. You're in a match on the final stage, down 14-3. I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit. So, Rob Roan was, he was an All-American. So I went to Lehigh. Before I got to Lehigh, Rob was an All-American, and he was one of the guys I worked with. And then my first year there, he was a conference champ, and he was an All-American the year before I got there. So his sophomore year, he was a conference champ, EIWA champion, and he was an All-American. So I got there and we worked out and we trained, and I felt like we had a great relationship. And he didn't win the conference and he didn't place at nationals. And I was like, what the heck? I broke this kid. Before I got here, he was doing so well, but he actually became a much better wrestler, and he had a lot of things going on and just didn't work out at the end. But that year he was a senior, and he had a lot of stuff going on in his life and his personal life. And he went through a bunch of different things, and through it, we just continue to stick together, continue to train. And just knowing all the battles that he had gone through that year, our bond, our friendship was taken to another level. So he, again, we got to the conference tournament and he didn't win. And actually in the conference tournament, he injured his shoulder, and it was pretty significant. So I remember we were on the way back. I think the conference tournament was down at Penn. So we were driving back, and I was in the car, and I got home and I sent him a text or an email. And I was just like, hey, I think it was a text. He said, hey, do you trust me? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, no, really, do you trust me? And he's like, of course, 100%. And I said, okay, we're going to come up with a plan, and you're going to be a national champ in 2 weeks. And without hesitation, it was like, okay, let's do it. So he was a really big guy in the weight room. He loved to lift weights and stuff, but he had this injury. So we had to just focus on rehabbing, and a lot of stuff we did some, a lot of non-contact stuff, a lot of visualization, a lot of focus on that. And he didn't step foot on the mat and wrestle live until the first round of the NCAA tournament, between the conference tournament and the NCAAs. He did a lot of drill and all, but he didn't wrestle live at all. And he goes on this tear, and he gets a major first round. Then he goes on 3 straight pins, and he was the 8th seed. And so he took out this guy, took out that guy, and got to the finals. And I remember it was like takedown, and he got taken down, he got tilted, and I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, what is going on? Like, he's gonna find a way. And I thought maybe he's gonna shoot a shot and take the guy down to his back and catch him there, or the guy's gonna shoot and he's gonna find a way to get some takedowns, just kind of chip away at the lead. I never thought that a cement job was coming. So about a minute 15 seconds left in the third period, he's on bottom, he gets out, kind of does a sloppy Granby roll, flops out on top, and ends up in this front headlock. And I think you watch a video, I think Strobel's like, do it. And I just kind of hold my breath, like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And then boom, he hits this rolling cement job, and he's got a minute 10, minute 5 seconds to try to get this pin. So it's got enough time, but it's a good amount of time for you to try and get the pin, but it's also a lot of time for the guy to fight off his back, or just not get pinned. And we're just going, and we're going crazy there. And he works in. It's one of those things, kind of funny. If he started on one side, he went all to the other side, he came back. It's just like he adjusted his position so many times, and finally he got the fall with maybe like 8 or 10 seconds left. So he had to squeeze for a minute. The other guy's fighting for a minute. It was just one of those battles that it's all about wrestling. And I don't even remember. Like I tell people I like levitated, but I jumped up on the stage and I ran out, because all the emotions of everything that he had been through in that year specifically, but the 2 years prior, and for him, that he had that complete faith and that commitment to believe in me, and we put this plan together. And for the tournament that he had, it was just awesome. So yeah, I jumped out there, ran in the middle of the mat, and most people that know me, I'm pretty conservative. I don't show my emotion that much, but I couldn't contain it. It was just like, he did it, and it was awesome. It was awesome for that culmination, and it's one of the best moments in my coaching career for sure.
Have you been more excited than that?
Not too often. I mean, it's been pretty close. I know a couple years ago when Yusuf Hamida beat Sam Stoll at the NCAA tournament, that was another time where I was pretty excited, just because of the battles that they had and the progress that he made. I know when we had Tanner Gardner, when he was at Stanford, when he became an All-American that first year, he was pretty pumped up and coming back through. When we got Jimmy Sheptock, when he made the semifinals and then came and made the finals in the NCAAs, I was pretty excited. So there are a few times in my coaching career that I got pretty close, but I think that was definitely a time where I completely lost my traditional control of my emotions. But it was definitely a worthwhile way to lose your control.
When you think about your career and just making world teams and then actually getting a medal, how would you describe it to someone of the degree of difficulty to get to that level? It's a high level.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think one of the things too, it's all about timing. And I was pretty fortunate. I wrestled through some significant changes in our sport. You know, when I started wrestling at the senior level, it was a 1 5-minute period, and then we went to the 2 3-minute periods, and you know, we went through the clinches and things like that. So, you know, getting to be able to experience and compete and be successful in all those different rule changes was pretty special. And, you know, the margin of error was pretty high. And when I look at my international career at the World Championship and Olympics, I think all but one of the people that I lost to in my international career were world champions, world medalists, Olympic champions. You know, so that level. So, I mean, the guys that I were losing to were pretty high level athletes, and, you know, the luck of the draw and how it plays out in the brackets. And, you know, even in '98 when, you know, I won and then I, you know, got overturned. I mean, Rodriguez is a world champ. He's a world silver medalist. He's an Olympic medalist. You know, I lost to Shamilin, who I beaten earlier in the tournament. Then I lost to him for the bronze. You know, the Turk that won, I think he won the world championship in '05. I had battles with him. I had lost to him in Turkey. I beat him, you know, at the World Cup. So it's like, those are the guys that I was competing with. So, you know, to be at that level and to be, you know, a point or two away from being, you know, a 3 or 4 time medalist, it's pretty small margin. So just that level of commitment and like you talked about earlier, of being able to stay with it, going through 3 Olympic cycles, you know, it took a lot of dedication. My body, fortunately, I stayed relatively healthy and I was able to do it. But, you know, the partners that I had, the coaches that I had, and, you know, the support that I had from, you know, from all my networks, really made the difference for being able to go there and continue to go. But yeah, the margin of error was so slim that, you know, 1 point here, 1 point there made the difference a lot of time.
When you're on an Olympic team, there's no team result. You're going there to get a gold medal for yourself. Do you feel like you're part of a team when you make an Olympic team with the other guys?
Oh, of course. You know, and that's one of the things I was telling someone the other day, just talking about my Olympic experience. And in 2000, I was really tunnel vision. You know, just focused on going out and try to win a gold medal, and that was an important deal. But when we got to the opening ceremonies, and we got to see, you know, you walk through that tunnel and there's 100,000 people in the stadium. They're cheering, the lights are flashing, everybody's saying, you know, USA and chanting for their country, and you know, people are cheering on. It's like, that's really what the overall, especially the Olympic experience is about. It's like, you're representing yourself, you're representing your country, you're representing your family under the Olympic flag. And to go out there, you know, the ultimate goal is to go out there and perform at a high level, but it's really about that representation and what it means. You know, it only happens every 4 years, and have the opportunity to participate in it. So the team aspect is really special, because all the preparation, all the hard work and the dedication, the hours of training camps and different things you're doing, that's really what sticks with you. I mean, obviously you go out there, you get 4 or 5 matches, and if you medal, if you place, you have those things that, you know, could be written on a book somewhere. But the time you guys were training together, the time that everybody is putting that energy in, hanging out, you know, just getting prepared, that's really what it's all about. So the team atmosphere really makes the competitive piece that much more rewarding, because nobody, you know, even though it's an individual sport, no one does it on their own. You need a partner, you need a coach, you need someone to help you. So you can't do it on your own. So when you go out and you win at a high level, there's a team behind you. You have your individual team, but you also have the group of guys that are there with you, and they're, you know, fighting the whole way. So that's really what makes our sport special. And, you know, we were really fortunate through those years. In 2000, you know, the guys were on the team. I was a little bit younger in that team, so I was kind of learning from the other guys. And in '04, I was kind of the older guy, the vet. So, you know, kind of took more of a leadership role in that cycle. But just knowing that those guys there, they had my back and I had theirs, was really what made the overall experience that much more rewarding.
Are you still a Penn Stater?
Always a Penn Stater. You know, they're, you know, in the when I was coaching, it was a little bit of a challenge, because I remember, I think it was 2011, we're in Philadelphia, and it was like, okay, you know, it was a pretty tight race for the team title. And, you know, I remember walking, and it was like, you know, we had a good run there. We were top 20 at Maryland. We had 3 All-Americans. So, you know, we had done pretty well. And I was just like thinking, I'm like, who else would I want to win? You know, it's like, I can't, you know, picture myself cheering for this school or that school. And it's like, Penn State's in a position to win. So that's my alma mater. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we're not in a position where we're, you know, chasing down a national championship right now. And so if we can't win, who else would you want to win? Your alma mater. And so, you know, you always kind of had that challenge. You get through. I mean, in 2014, Jimmy had to wrestle Ed Ruth in the finals. and that was a direct correlation. I mean, Penn State needed Ruth to win to have a chance to win as a title. You know, I wanted to win, have my first national champ as a head coach. And the amazing thing was that I had people prior to the match and after the match saying, you know, Penn State people that said they were torn. You know, they were like, hey, you know we needed Ed to win for our team title, but we also wanted you to get a national champ for yourself. So that level of love from that, you know, that fan base and those people there that started, you know, 20 years ago is still there. And that's something. So forever be a Penn Stater. And, you know, for wrestling, obviously that was a big part of it, but even, you know, some of my best friendships in my life were made there. So, you know, Penn State, we are.
Thanks for this time, man. This was fun to dive deep into your career and what you've accomplished. It's amazing what you've been able to do and how long you've stayed with it. So really appreciate the time and look forward to seeing what the next chapter is.
Yeah, Kyle, appreciate everything you do. It's always fun to connect with you, and you guys are doing a great job keeping everything up to date and rocking and rolling. So anytime, you know, never hesitate to give me a shout. I'd love to spend time and chop it up with you.